You fear your potential. You will find that that is the only difficulty that you have in your life, and it'll be the only difficulty that you will face the rest of your life, and that is fearing your potential. And you will say, no, it's because of all these other things that have happened to me, all these other things I have experienced in my life. That's why I'm not fulfilling my potential. This is why I'm not successful. This is why I'm not abundant or prosperous or in love and all of those things. And you'll say it's all of these other reasons. And I am saying it is because you fear your potential. And I can say that over and over again because I know it's true because that's what I did. Carl Jung has been really important to me recently because he's giving me verification of so many things. And he talked about synchronicity. And that's when we come up to things that we can't explain, the synchronistic event that is happening. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. See, because that's the title of a message that I received on this date a year ago. And it also happens to be my mother's birthday. My mother died 14 years ago. But right before that, she would come to me. She had cancer and she had dementia. And she would come to me and she would show me the Wilhelm messages that she had printed out. And she was reading them. And she said, "These are helping me so much." I would say, "No, that doesn't make sense." Well, she's got dementia. She doesn't understand. But she said, "These are helping me so much." And so I'm going to start to fulfill my potential today because it is her birthday and let's honor her now. So let me show you the message that came through because this will make sense for you now and then I'm going to show you something else why I can say this. There's another thing that Carl Jung used to say also. I saw this in an interview that he did and the interviewer was asking him a question if he believed something. And he paused for a moment and he thought, well, that used to be the case. And he said, but now I know. And that's the place we always want to get to, is when we know, when we can own who we are. And so I'm going to take that next step today. But this is the message that came through last year. And it was, you fear your potential. You might have heard that you had this potential most of your life, and you keep attempting to fulfill it. The difficulty that you have is not trusting who you are. You are all born into the world with unlimited potential to do, be, and become anything you desire. But because of your fear of the unknown, you can hold yourself back from experiencing that life that you want. And your world does precisely the same thing by fearing the world it could become. This process is why you have a restructuring. When you can accept, when you can connect to your authentic self, you are connected to God and all that is. Your potential is held there, but you must be the one to allow it to unfold for you. Please study the message we gave you in 2012. The outcome of anything you attempt to do, be, have, or accomplish is none of your business. In other words, if you hold a specific outcome in your mind as you move forward with your efforts, you may also inadvertently block the greater good the universe has in store for you. It is always the process itself that is more important, for it is only during the process that you experience any manner of expansion that you desire. Remember that you are continually operating from a limited awareness, for it is only in this way that you can experience more significant expansion and know that is what you have accomplished. Now, I couldn't have told you that I understood that message when I received it in 2012, but I understand it now because that's how we all evolve. It's in our consciousness and we do it over time. But in order for that to happen, we have to become willing to do self-examination, which is the other thing that Carl Jung said we aren't willing to do, to look at ourselves and understand the things that have held us back for so long. within ourselves individually and also within our world. And you see, I knew all of this information. And when I went last week to Gaia and filmed Beyond Belief with George Noory, I said all of these things. And I said, I was given something that could give any person the ability to live this magnificent life and have everything that they want. And that would lead to us creating a much better world. And I said, the only difficulty is they won't believe me. That's true, because I didn't believe me either, because I had to develop this. I had to live a life where I developed this philosophy that I could give to others. Otherwise, I had to be able to prove that it worked. And what I talked about with George was about ascension, our individual ascension, because we all move through it. Now, you call it whatever you want, personal development, self-actualization, all of that. But I think of it as more than that because I know every soul that is born has something to offer, something that's within them. And I've proven it. Even people who have been in my work who've had all these difficulties in their lives, and all of a sudden they're starting to understand who they are and they're becoming happy and they're creating businesses and they're living really prosperous lives because of moving through the restrictions that have been there. And so I had to move through mine as well. But it was just way too much. I put out something yesterday where I said I was meant to uplift humankind. Nobody's going to listen to that video or believe it. Because I think it has maybe 30 views on it. And that is because I've also hidden from myself. We always do that because that potential is something that we haven't lived yet. So how could we believe it? But then we also have something called cognitive dissonance. And I've talked about that so much because you can see something being presented to you. And then because you haven't experienced it, you don't know that it's real. You say, no, that's not possible. Yeah, I did that. But I can't do that anymore because after I did that interview, it's going to go out to the world. And I just signed an agreement to do another talk in October of this year that maybe will go to 100,000 people. So it's going to be millions of people who will hear this, and we'll see how many decide to believe it, except I've proven it. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and I talked about this with George as well, because I talked about the mind-body connection, because when we become aligned with who we are, then we can have all sorts of healing that doesn't even make sense. And I've experienced all of that. So when I was speaking to my doctor yesterday, I go twice a year and have these full blood panels done because I want to know what's there, what's misaligned within me. And this time there wasn't anything. There was one slight thing that I knew what that was. It was nothing to be concerned about, but I knew why it was showing up. It was because I was stressed. And that's probably the biggest thing for all of us is that stress. And my stress was like, oh, wait a minute, I have to really reveal myself now because I'm being exposed. And you'll understand that one as well because I've spoken about it for a long time. But we won't believe things until we see it demonstrated. And so I knew my life was meant to demonstrate what was possible within the individual, but more importantly, what was possible in our world. There's nothing happening in our world right now that I did not know about and that I didn't tell you because I've gone through it because I received this information. And the 2012 was important in that message because that was another time where our civilization went through a change. And then we are supposed to figure out, well, how are we going to make the world better? Because it's within each individual. And if we were to not fear our potential, then we would put a completely different energy into our lives and also into the world, and we would see something quite different. I'm going to show you something else real quick because I want you to understand that I did give you all of this. I'm saying to anyone who might come to my channel, if you go to my website, rogerburnley.com, and look for the articles, you will see what I'm saying. And if you read them all, wow, you will be in a completely different place because we evolve in our consciousness. And I've given you all kinds of stuff that would help that happen. So this is where we're going to start. 2016, I might be a racist with misogynistic tendencies. See, because I knew that's where we would be in our world right now, and I had the information that could give us greater awareness so that maybe we could move through this in our civilization this time. But then I didn't trust myself. And so I told you back then I was a reluctant mystic because I couldn't accept that. I had to go get everyone else to tell me That's what was going on. But then I wanted to tell you the reason you were born. You might not have read it, but I did tell you. Then I said your destiny is before you. Now, if you look at the dates, these were at least a couple of years ago. Last call. And this is when I was trying to tell people, listen, I have this work that you could do, but come into it now. Then I told you what's happening in your life in the world. That was also in 2022. But if you look at your life now and probably the world, it would make much more sense. I feared success and myself. That is true for every single person because everyone could become successful if they did not fear themselves. I wrote a book about overcoming fear, a guide to freedom, because that is the thing that holds most humans back is fear of what's next. Then I tried to tell you I created this work called the Last Development Program. Anyone who does it, they would have everything that they wanted. The only thing that's happened now is I haven't finished it, which is what I'm up to. The reason you're alive now, I just wanted you to understand that. Then I said you could save the world because, see, that it would be within each person. No one has more ability than another. So if we decide we're the ones to do that, we might have it. Saw a 13-year-old who knows he's going to do that. I spent several months in a dark room. So I wanted to explain how I received so much of this information, but I also suffered for so long. Think about a monk or someone who's been locked away. I did that. You might remember why you are alive, because it's a process. It keeps unfolding. I could never fit in or feel that I belong. That is the thing that most of us move through. Most people will move through that because you're supposed to. You're a unique being, so it has to develop. I didn't want to be me. I had to acknowledge that I was receiving all of this and I was pushing it away. And I know that most people will do that. Then I was given a gift. I had to finally start acknowledging that, but still, I knew people wouldn't read it or understand it. And I could put out every kind of video, and people will watch 1 minute of it because they have the cognitive dissonance. No, that's not possible. You only want three things. That's every single person, and it is acceptance, acknowledgement, and approval. Everyone. I decided to give up suffering today. That's when I wrote the article where I was going to talk about more of who I was and what I had, because when you don't do that, you suffer in your life. And I did that. I spent the last 4 years suffering in so many different ways because it was so big to accept all of this. The world, according to Wilhelm, and that's how I received everything. When we have cosmic guidance, we can do anything, and that's what I've been using. Now, and I knew this too, I could transform the world and become a billionaire because I knew that what I had was so valuable that anyone would pay money for it, to have this life that they wanted to live. That's what I did. It's miserable not being myself. And that's what was happening for so long because I couldn't tell you. That's the same for you. You will be miserable when you do not take the steps to understand who you are. Then I had to tell you, all of these years, 35 years, it took me I downloaded a philosophy. And it was one that said every soul has something to offer and they just have to uncover what it is. I might be channeling Carl Jung. That was a fun one because I hadn't studied him, except when I started seeing all of his information, I realized that Wilhelm had been giving me the information that Carl Jung knew. I am going to say all the quiet parts out loud. That's when I wanted to tell you what was happening in the world, and everyone was like not talking about it. Why are things looking the way that they are? But I said it all. And again, when you go back and read these, you will love this. Life coaching for a new world, because that's what I had to shift to because the world changed as well. Then I wanted to tell you why we are seeing the world as it is today, especially in the United States. And if you read this one, you will understand it because I told you in November of 2022. Then, all suffering and struggling you continue to experience are self imposed. That's because we fear our potential and we don't want to take the next step into acceptance. Okay, you are perfect. Now, if you read that one, you will understand that is my belief about every single person. You're born perfect. You just have to figure out that perfection because it exists within you. Why would God make people any less than another? It doesn't make any sense when you think about it logically. Then we told you every November 23rd, and we will do so this year. There's a synchronicity that happens, and sometimes I receive information, and Wilhelm will put them on particular dates to impress upon all of us that we evolve in our consciousness individually over time, linear time. Our world does the same thing, and this is where we are now. Then who I am now and my coaching. When we change, we have to start acknowledging who we are and what we're up to, because as you start owning your potential, you will change. You'll start to see yourself being completely different. Our world, my life, my work, and your life, because everyone is moving through this. The Ascension Guide for the New World. That's what I had to finally start telling people that I had created, which is an Ascension Guide for this new world, because we couldn't move into the new world doing the same old stuff that's within us individually and also collectively. How you can achieve your greatest potential. All of these are going to be so fun for you. And then in 2023, in January, I wrote this, but I also wrote something else last year that got published in the Sedona Journal that really got a lot of play, because I was giving all the ideas of what we would be experiencing in the world now. Then finally, it's this one, We Are the Second Coming. And if you listen to that one, my associate Stan put a wonderful kind of audio there that you can listen to it, but it explains that it's up to each of us to change ourselves and change the world. But the only difficulty will be you won't believe yourself. That is all that it is. And I wish I could tell you that it was something else that was causing you not to have the life that you want to have, not to become happy, not to become abundant, not to have the right relationships, not to love yourself. It's only because you are fearing your potential. And so now what I've done is, because I know I'm going to get all of these views and people looking at things, not on my YouTube channel, because you can see I've hidden from that. I have people coming to me all the time. Roger, we could get your YouTube channel really going and get so many people. I was a little afraid of that, but now I have no choice, because I'm going to have more views than I ever thought imaginable. That is what can happen for you as well when you stop fearing your potential, because there are no limits to what you can achieve if you are willing to take the next steps. And so I said, okay, I'm going to put this all together in a work that anyone can afford. And when you look at it, just check it out. So you will know that if you're not having everything you want, it's because you're choosing not to. There are no obstacles in the way now, because I've laid it all out. I'm going to continue to do that because I have so much value and work that I'm going to give to everyone before I turn 74 in November. And I'm saying that because I know people will look at me and say, well, that's not possible. If you understand human development, you will know, or ascension, you will see that you can reach a higher state of understanding where physical things start to change. You start to heal. Now, I can't tell you how far you will go because I'm still figuring it out. And that's what my doctor kept saying yesterday. What did you do? Because he's looking at all the different results, and that he had said, well, you had this kidney thing or this bladder thing before, but that's all better now. What did you do? I said, well, I just put it in my brain and I just changed things. That's what you can do as well. Check out everything on my site. And also, if it's your first time, you can please subscribe and share it with others. Um, I never talk about that, but I'm doing it more now. See you soon.